So today I'm going to tell you some tips about building an efficient application in Zoho Creator. So let's directly jump into the tips. Tip number 1. Use appropriate field type to build your form. Here in this report, we're having maximum, minimum, and average, right? So that is average price per bottle, and in this total entries, what is the maximum price per bottle? That is expensive wine, and minimum, which is the least expensive. So these things can be enabled in reports, right? But to enable these settings, what should be the type of field we need to create here? So we have to use the currency field to get these kind of calculations. That is, Zoho Creator provides lot of predefined fields. If you use that appropriate field, you can get most of it. That is, we will give a lot of out-of-the-box features so that you can easily enable that in a single button click. So the tip number 1, use appropriate field type while building a form. So Hari has introduced phone number type, address field, name field, all those things, right? So by having these things in mind, we have introduced all those types. Tip number 2, structure your form well. In earlier presentation, Haider pointed out in his recommend to application session, he has pointed out that we have to segregate the data. That is, we have to structure the data before building the application, right? That means if I have an inventory Excel sheet or inventory data, I have to structure my data before building the application. For example, in this case, it's an employee management form. If you look at the screen, it has basic info of the employee, work experience, work info, and his personal info, all those things, right? But before building this form, if you structure your data, so we can split these things as employee information and work information and all other things, personal information, right? So basically, we can split this form into multiple smaller forms. That is, we can structure our data like this. By structuring small data, you can use it efficiently. That is, in this add employee form, I have captured only the basic information of that employee, and in the add work experience form, I have linked that using a lookup field. That way, we can link those forms that is, we can relate these forms using lookup fields. This is one of our field type. Tip number 3, make the code understandable. So while writing your Delish code, so the code should be understandable one. So just look at the code. Can you tell me what is this and what is this C name or PRI, these variables? We can't, right? So look at this code. Can you tell me now what is that first one and second one and third one, right? So the first one is customer name, and the second one is price, and third one is discount applicable or not. So we are capturing this data in this variable, right? So if we name it well, anyone can understand. We make your variable short and understandable one. Look at this example. Can you tell me what this code does by looking at this particular code? How long will it take you to read this code and get the logic of the code and explain these things? Instead, can you now tell what this code does? So from the first line itself, we can say it calculates the total stock of white wines. So in the second line, I have assigned some value to total stock, that is 0. After that, it's looping through all the white wine type and calculates the total. So if you write the comments well, it's easy to understand. Even if you write your code and look at your code after 1 year, so it will be, that is, debugging that application code or understanding this code will be harder one. If you write the proper comments, then it will be easy to understand even for you or for your coworkers. If you have a developers, so for them it's easy to understand if you leave a proper comments there. So comments as much as possible in your code. Tip number 4, use built-in functions effectively. We have a lot of built-in functions. For example, in this particular piece of code, so it will calculate the business days and assign it to delivery days. That is, I'll give you an example. If I order a wine on Friday and my winery guy promised me to deliver the wine on 3 working days, 3 official working days, we cannot include Saturday and Sunday in this, right? So for that, we have to exclude those things and calculate the delivery date, right? For that, this add business day function will do the magic for you. It's a magic. So don't look what it does inside, right? So this is easy built-in function, right? So, but if you want to write that functionality as your deluge function, or if you want to explore that and you want to write your own code, this is how the code will look like. Even more, it's optimized code. Even more effectively we can write this, but if you use add business day built-in function, it will be an optimized one. That is, it's system provided. So we have optimized all the way down. It's run fast, all those things. Let's take another example. In this example, the text which formats the given text to the given format. But if you write the same text thing as your code, so the code will look like this one. So write built-in function wherever it's possible. We have extensive built-in functions available in help document. Before writing any of your functionality, just check whether there is a built-in functions available for this functionality or not. Just go to the help and check it. So we do have extensive collection of built-in functions. By the way, the built-in functions are optimized for efficiency. Tip number 5, do not repeat the code. So you can write code easily. That is, if you want to achieve multiple functionalities, you can write the code in one block. That block can have 1,000 lines or 100 lines or 5,000 lines. We do have users written 5,000 lines in one Ansys script. After that, they came to us and they tell that it's slow. But what we did is, we will split this code and we'll do the optimization for them. Instead, if you write the code in a same block, so you will, for the same functionality, if you need the same functionality in some other place, you will write there too, right? So, but if you want to modify that, you have to modify in 2 separate places. Instead, you can take that common functionality and you can write that as a user-defined function, which is introduced by Nandini. And you can call that function everywhere. So that if there is any change in the particular piece of code, you can go and do it in one place instead of doing in every place. So split the repeated code as a separate function and call it wherever it is required, right? So do not repeat the code. So if you do that, it's unmanageable and it's source of bugs actually. Tip number 6, avoid heavy nesting. Okay, what is nesting, by the way? See this piece of code. Here, inside that for loop, there is 2 if, right? So if inside if. So if you write statement inside that statement, it is called as nested one. So here I have written a nested if statement. Like in this piece of code, I'm going to, for my winery, I'm going to invite customers to my wine testing ceremony. So for that, I'll take all the customers and loop through that, and I'll check whether they are in USA and their state is California. Because my testing ceremony is going to take in California, so I'm going to invite the California customers alone, right? So if I have 1,000 customers, and out of the 1,000, only 10 people are living in California. What we'll do is, we'll take all the 1,000 and we'll give it to you. So the application check, the first if check, whether the customer's country is USA, and then it check the customer state is California. So instead, we can remove this nesting by adding a condition in the first if itself, right? So if you write nested if, it's actually a source of bug and if this is a simple code so that if inside if looks neat. But if you write in your real world example, so if inside if, then inside if you go like that, you cannot manage that code at all, and it's a source of bug. So wherever possible, avoid the nesting. So it could be a if inside if, or it could be for loop inside for loop. Okay, next, let's see optimize loops. So this is tip number 7. So whenever write your code, optimize your loop. If you write your loop, just check whether it's optimized one. I'll show you how. So see this example. So can you tell me what this piece of code does by looking at the comment? This is calculate the available stock of aging white wine, which is greater than 1 year. So this is basically a simple total calculation. But here what this code does is, it will take all the elements in the, that is all the entries in the inventory. If I have 10,000 wine inventory listing, so it will take all the 10,000 wine details, and it will check whether this wine type is white, and it will check whether the age of that wine is greater than 1 year. That's what this code does. But before going to optimize the loop, we have a nested if condition here, right? So let's optimize that first, or let's remove that nested if first. Okay, here removed one if and added in the condition itself. Now we have only one if code and with for loop. But even after removing this nested thing, what's happening is, it will take all the 10,000 inventory list and it will check whether it's white and it's greater than 1 year. But how to optimize this one? Check this code. I have entirely removed that script itself, that if itself, right? So I have pushed that condition to database. That is, here at the time of picking the inventory list itself, it will check whether this is white, it's greater than 1 year, right? So in this case, the number of looping, that is number of iteration, will be reduced. Consider I have 10,000 inventory entries, and out of that only thousands are white wines, and out of the 1,000 white wines, only hundreds are aging more than 1 year, right? So if I write if I check that condition in if statement, it will take all the 1,000 thing and will check. But if you push that thing to database, it will take only the 100 entries and it will calculate the total. That's how you can eliminate a lot of loopings. So check, that is, think of your user doing something and you are iterating 10,000 times and doing a lot of work inside that particular loop. What will happen? Your user feels slowness, right? Even if your farm, in the on submit, if you write these kind of loops, your farm submission will be slow, right? So if you optimize this way, your farm submission will be fast. So don't do any these kind of checks in your application logic, that just push it to database. So in database, we will do these things in optimized way. So don't worry about that. Even if it is slow, we will do a lot of black box thing so that it will be fast. And next thing is avoid loops wherever it's possible. So looping is actually, loop is an evil. So if you write any loop in your application becomes slow. Instead, think of how to avoid the loop itself. So we do have a lot of built-in functions. By using that, you can avoid the loop entirely. For example, the last example itself will take. Here it will check in the inventory whether the type of wine is white and it's aging more than 1 year and calculate the total, right? So ultimately, we need the total count of the available stock. That's what we need. For that, we are writing a simple loop. But how to optimize these things? As I told you earlier, we have a lot of built-in functions. Using that, you can avoid looping itself. This is how we can eliminate the loop. So here, I'm using some built-in function which is provided by Zoho Creator. By using that, you can eliminate the loop from your code itself. What this piece of code does is, it will push everything to database so that we will take care of everything. So the looping itself is now black box. You don't worry about defining the variable and calculating using some arithmetic operation, all those things you don't need to worry about. Just use sum, right? So similarly, we have a lot of built-in functions for database operations like average, max, min, those things, right? If you want to calculate your average of any number column or any currency field, anything, so you can use average. If you want to find out maximum value present in the database, that is, if you have 1000 entries, and in the 1000 entries, if you want to check which is maximum value, so you can use maximum. That is, just replace sum to maximum. And here type equal to 1 and age equal to 1 is the filtering. Filter you have applied to the database, right? That's it. Tip number 9. Be clever with your external API calls. So Tejas, in the last session, Tejas explained you about Google Maps integration and Google APIs, right? So there, you are going to call some third-party service, right? So Google service. So if you call some third-party service in your application speed depends on the third-party service too. So for example, in this case, I'm maintaining inventory in my website, and I'm going to update the inventory by looping through all the records present in the database. In this code, it will take the entries from order form, and it will check whether the type is, the wine type is Shiraz, and it will update the Shiraz type's quantity in my third-party web service. Okay? So actually, I'm maintaining the update, that is inventory details in my third-party service, not in Zoho Creator. Consider like that. So in this case, it will loop through all the order entries, and for every time, it will check whether the wine type is Shiraz, and it will call the API. So that means it will call, consider if I have 100 orders. So it will call 100 times the third-party service API, right? So let's say that third-party service will return your response in 10 seconds. How long the user has to wait, or how long the script will run? Just think of it. So how to optimize that? Hey, before that, have you noticed one thing? There's a if, right? So we can optimize that too. So that if I have only 10 Shiraz wine, and I have 100 orders in that, I don't have to go through all the 100 things. Only I have to iterate 10 things, right? So I will push that filtering mechanism to the database. So now, anyway, the number of API calls made to the third-party API will be same here. It's not changed, right? So how to change that? As I told you, to calculate the sum, we have a built-in function. So by using that, you can eliminate the loop itself. After eliminating the loop, you can update the total quantity to your third-party website. In this way, if I have 10 Shiraz wine orders, I won't call the third-party API 10 times. I will call the third-party API only 1 time. So say if that particular service takes 10 seconds to respond. So if I call that 10 times, it will take 100 seconds, right? So instead, if you write the last piece of code, it will take only 10 seconds instead of 100 seconds. Run your workflows in the background. Actually, don't worry about that. This is the last tip I'm going to give. So actually, I think you're running out of time. So just write any workflows in schedules. If you don't want that workflow involved in the user thread or user interaction, just write it in schedule. For example, let's take order workflow. So what are the steps, what are the workflows involved in this order process? If our user clicks submit, that is order now button, it has to check whether the stock is available or not. If the stock is available, we have to confirm the order and notify the shipping team to ship that particular thing, right? Then if the stock is not available, that is, if it is out of stock, we have to notify the inventory team to purchase, to make and purchase order and to get the inventory, right? So in this case, if you look at this example, so all the steps cannot be done in the user workflow itself, right? So that's checking the stock and confirming the order can be done here, but notifying the shipping team and updating the stock, all those things cannot be done here, right? For those things, we can use schedules. So that you are, at the time of submitting order now, your user won't feel any slowness at all because it's offline, right? That is, we have moved to schedules. At the time of clicking order now, it will only check the stocks and confirm the order. Rest of the things will be taken care in the schedules. Okay? So use schedules as far as possible. Okay. This is the quick summary. These are the best 10 tips I can provide you in the given time frame. Yeah.